2014, Elizabeth Holmes was Silicon Valley's newest obsession. She was young, driven, and mysterious. Dressed in all black with a voice that commanded attention, Holmes didn't just want to build a business. She wanted to change the world. Her company, Theranos, promised to revolutionize healthcare forever. Imagine this. Instead of drawing tubes of blood from your veins with a needle, you could take just a tiny finger prick and get dozens, even hundreds, of lab tests run instantly. No pain, no delay, no hospital visits. That idea was powerful, and it made Holmes the world's youngest self-made female billionaire. Theranos was everywhere. CNBC, Fortune, TED Talks. Holmes stood on stages and talked about her mission like it was a calling. And people believed her. Not just investors, but institutions. Walgreens partnered to roll out Theranos centers in its pharmacies. Safeway signed on. The military was interested. Her board? Filled with some of the most powerful names in U.S. history. Henry Kissinger, George Shultz, James Mattis. But none of them understood the science. And inside the lab, things were falling apart. Theranos claimed that its technology, a small black box called the Edison, could perform over 200 tests using just a drop of blood. This little device, about the size of a desktop printer, was supposed to replace entire laboratories. The potential? Massive. It could save lives, cut costs, make testing more accessible globally. It sounded like the future, but there was a problem. The Edison didn't work. At least not reliably, not consistently, not in any way that would pass clinical standards. Behind the scenes, scientists and lab techs at Theranos were running into constant issues. The machines would break down. Test results fluctuated wildly. In many cases, blood samples were secretly tested using traditional third-party analyzers, like those from Siemens. Yet Theranos continued selling the dream. Marketing outpaced the science. Data was manipulated, results were cherry-picked, and the people who noticed were warned to stay silent. Inside the company, fear was a culture. Questions weren't welcomed. They were punished. But one young employee decided he couldn't stay quiet. Tyler Schultz joined Theranos with high hopes. He was young, bright, and eager to make a difference. A Stanford biology graduate, he genuinely believed in the mission. It wasn't just professional, it was personal. His grandfather, George Shultz, one of the most respected statesmen in American history, was on Theranos' board. That gave Tyler access, but it also added pressure. At first, everything seemed fine, but it didn't take long before the cracks appeared. Tyler saw test results that didn't add up. Patients getting false positives and negatives. Quality control that felt more like cover-ups. When he raised concerns with senior leadership, he was brushed off, but he kept digging. What he discovered horrified him. Theranos was using traditional lab equipment for most of its tests, not the Edison. Yet they were reporting those results to patients and doctors as if they came from their proprietary tech. That wasn't just unethical. It was dangerous. Tyler faced a choice. Keep quiet and keep his job, or tell someone the truth and risk everything. He chose the truth. Tyler didn't just find problems, he documented them. He kept emails, lab notes, and internal documents. He watched as Theranos knowingly submitted faulty data to regulatory agencies and misled investors. He realized this wasn't just exaggeration or hype. It was fraud. He tried again to raise his concerns internally. First with his supervisor, then HR, then to Holmes herself. But each time he was met with indifference, or worse, threats. He was told to stay in his lane, to stop asking questions. His badge access was revoked. Colleagues distanced themselves, he was being frozen out. And then the legal pressure began. Theranos sent him cease and desist letters. accused him of stealing trade secrets. Their legal team was led by David Boies, one of the most aggressive and feared lawyers in America. They weren't just intimidating him, they were watching him. His emails were tracked, his movements scrutinized. They even sent private investigators to follow his family. Most people would have backed down. Tyler didn't. Instead, he reached out to a journalist. Tyler wrestled with the decision. If he went public, his career could be over before it began. He might be sued, discredited, estranged from his own grandfather, and yet silence wasn't an option. He'd seen too much. He knew too much, so he took the risk. He gave Carreyrou permission to publish his name, the first insider to go on record. The Wall Street Journal article dropped in October 2015. It was a bombshell. Hot startup Theranos has struggled with its blood test technology. In it, Tyler was named. His claims were documented. The house of cards began to shake. Theranos denied everything, called it biased, accused Carreyrou of being misled, but the damage was done. The FDA launched an investigation. Walgreens put its partnership on hold, and the media, once obsessed with Elizabeth Holmes, began asking questions. All because one whistleblower spoke up. One email, sent in secret, had turned a billion-dollar lie into a national scandal. And that was just the beginning. The most dangerous thing in Theranos wasn't faulty tech. It was unchecked storytelling. Elizabeth Holmes was a master communicator. She told a story so powerful that people stopped asking questions. But now, John Carreyrou was asking them. His communication style was the opposite. Methodical, evidence-based, precise. He didn't just rely on what whistleblowers said, he corroborated it with data, emails, internal documents. Tyler became his most vital voice. Their emails back and forth, filled with encrypted files and clarifying questions, weren't just sources, they were strategy. Tyler learned to write clearly, calmly, and defensively. Every sentence mattered. Together, they were building a new narrative, one that could pierce the polished facade Holmes had built. The original article was only 1,500 words long, but every one of those words had weight. Theranos' lawyers tried to kill the story before it ran. But Carreyrou stood firm. His communication, backed by facts and protected by the First Amendment, held the line. And when it was published, it hit like a sledgehammer. The Wall Street Journal story didn't just inform, it changed the conversation. Overnight, the narrative shifted. Holmes had once spoken on stages about vision and disruption. Now, she was answering to regulators, lawyers, and journalists. The same media that once celebrated her now dissected every claim. Every quote she had given became a liability. Old interviews were rewatched, inconsistencies surfaced. The public didn't just stop trusting her, they started questioning everything. It was a masterclass in how fragile a brand becomes when the truth leaks. And it was communication, not code, not chemistry, that did the damage. Emails from employees, articles from journalists, anonymous tips turned verified truth. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, launched an investigation. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services revoked Theranos' lab license. Walgreens severed ties. Elizabeth Holmes went from icon to indictment. Not because someone hacked her devices or stole her tech, but because someone finally said what needed to be said. And once the truth was out, no one could put it back in. Here on Saved and Destroyed, we'll keep investigating how words, emails, speeches, leaked memos, press releases shape our world. Because in the end, what's said can destroy, or it can save. The Theranos collapse wasn't inevitable. It happened because someone finally told the truth. If this story moved you, share it. Comment with your thoughts. And remember, every lie survives until one person says something. So speak, write, communicate. We'll be here to listen. This is Saved and Destroyed. See you in the next episode.